Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and another main card analysis. This week we've got UFC Fight Night, Poirier versus Hooker. Just quickly though to recap last week, it was a pretty poor card for myself. I went 2-5, 0-2 on both the Underdog Picks. Still managed to sneak into the top 60% and get ourselves a bronze badge with a 2,149 XP game. And we also went pretty poorly in the multi Per Annum, selected some poor legs. That's on me. I'd like to start with Roosevelt. Poor submission defense. When his arm was in that compromising position and he had a chance to slip out, but instead he went with the hammer fist and Miller just extended that arm. Miller was far too dangerous. So I highlighted the discrepancy in the odds in my breakdown. I just didn't have the balls to take that one. That one's my bad. Belal Muhammad, his conditioning wasn't as good as usual. I know Lyman hit him with some big shots, but Belal did not look good going late, and Good's power carried into the late rounds and he really hurt him in that third. Muhammad did show toughness, managing to stay in the fight, held on to some crucial grappling exchanges and just survived really and won that decision, but a really close fight. Pennington looked good, unlimited gas tank, and her bodywork really paid dividends in the later rounds. Marion's conditioning also looked quite poor, and in the one ground exchange that we got, Renault she didn't look likely at all. Pennington, like I did mention as well, always likely to win a decision there, but the 1.43 times multiplier was never going to get my bet. The Emmett Burgos fight, super entertaining. I did score for Emmett. I felt like the harder strikes scored more for him, even though Burgos kind of had a volume advantage throughout the fight. The fact that he overcame that left leg injury is super impressive, because that happened in the first exchange essentially, and he managed to bite down on his mouthpiece like he said in interviews post and just scrap it out and get that win. Burgos didn't go to the body half as much as I would have liked. And although he did prove durable taking those big shots, he didn't really make his versatility pay off. And credit to Emmett. And with Blades, fairly dominant. His conditioning also faded. It was kind of a pattern throughout the card. And I thought Volkov was a chance to rally for the finish late, but obviously he just couldn't. Blades relentless with the takedown. Didn't get off much ground and pound, but I went with the TKO. The decision was paying good odds. It's an outcome I should have probably looked at a bit closer, but all good. On to the next one. Bottom of the main card here, we've got Sean Woodson at 1.34 times versus Julian Arosa at 3.9 times. Woodson's 1-0 in the UFC, 5-0 last 5. Arosa 1-4 in the UFC, 2-3 in his last 5. I really give Julian Arosa a minimal chance of winning here. He's pretty well rounded. He's got 10 knockouts, 9 submissions on his record, but his skill level is quite low. And the biggest problem he has is his defense. He's such a liability. He's so hittable. And a striker like Woodson should really have no problem picking him apart, in my opinion. Woodson's really long for the division. He's such a lanky dude. He's got really clean straight punches, and he throws heaps of different strikes as well. He's decent with the kicks, and he also throws them knees straight up the middle, who he hit Kyle Boxniak with a couple of times, really hard. Arosa's been in and out of the UFC, and I feel like he's just being a whipping boy here. He got Devontae Smith on his UFC comeback, got knocked out first round. I see it being another tough test here, and I'll be super surprised if he can get the win. So evidently I'm going with Woodson. I think with Arosa's poor defense, I can definitely see him getting the knockout, or getting knocked out, sorry. But I'm going to play the decision in a pretty one-sided affair. I think Woodson's going to pick him apart at striking range, and that's paying 2.19 times at the moment. So I'll be getting on that. Go to the next fight. We've got Jan Volante at 2.31 times versus Maurice Greene at 1.76 times. Volante is 7-8 in the UFC and 2-3 in his last 5. Greene is 3-2 in the UFC and 3-2 in his last 5. Starting with Maurice Greene, he's a kickboxer primarily with pretty solid BJJ for a heavyweight. He's got 4 submission wins, and I think he's only the second heavyweight in UFC history to get a submission via triangle. I think Stefan Struve's the other one, off the top of my head. He's a versatile striker. He's got big heavy leg kicks, front kicks to the body, and a really decent long jab. And he loves the clinch, which is really good for him being 6'7". His knees are always on in the clinch, always working to the body and to the head on his typically smaller opponents. And that's kind of going to play a big factor here. I think the Greene size advantage is 4 inches height and reach. He's going to play a big role in this fight, because Volante's not even a large light heavyweight. And he's coming up to heavyweight for this fight. He's going to be super undersized. Usually when people come up weight, they have a speed advantage, but Volante's already quite slow at light heavyweight. I don't think that's going to be too significant. going to the pros of Jan Volante, he's a solid striker. He does have wrestling ability, although he rarely uses it. I think he's 0.5 takedown attempts per 15 minutes. But yeah, he does have heavy hands. He can bang. Both of these fighters do tend to get pressured and backed up. I don't really know who's going to command the center, but I feel like it's going to be Maurice with his length. And from what I've seen of some of the footage I've looked, Jan doesn't mind kind of getting pushed back and countering with a big overhand right. An X factor going into this one is I don't know how Maurice Greene's prep's going to be. From what I saw on Tough 28, he was really unprofessional, drinking, smoking in the house before fights. He had a personality that was easy to dislike. I'm kind of hoping that his 2-fight skid that he's currently on is going to be motivating for him to kind of turn his career around, realise he's in the UFC, and he's got all this opportunity just waiting for him. And to be honest, the 2 losses he has suffered, you can't really knock him for that. He was subbed by Oleinik, and then Pavlovich knocked him out. But Pavlovich is an exciting Russian prospect. He's 14-1, and his 1 loss was in his UFC debut where he got fed to Overeem, like horribly. I don't know why they matched him up with that in his debut. I suppose they were trying to leapfrog him to the front of the division. But anyway, I'm going with Maurice Greene. I don't typically like to read into size too much, but this one's literally just glaring at me in the face. I expect Greene to look better. I'm expecting a nice balanced fight. Keep it at a distance, initiate some clinch exchanges and work their knees to the body. Because Volante has proven susceptible to the body in his last fight against Michal Oleksiejczuk. A really small light heavyweight. That guy could definitely, genuinely make middleweight. He got finished with a left hook to the body. Now we're talking a big heavyweight in Greene. I feel like Greene's definitely a chance to get a finish here. And if so, it will likely be early, with Greene having 6 finishes all in the first round. But I'm going to chase value. I'm going to chase the decision, or play the decision rather, at 5.16 times. I do feel that if it goes to the judges, it won't quite be clear cut. Both of these guys' conditioning's pretty poor, and it does scare me that if we see the third, Volante might be able to put it on Greene a little bit. And both guys have been to split decisions before, and that could be on the cards again here. But I'm gonna play Maurice. Okay, going to the next fight on the card, we've got Kyle Dorcas at 4.42 times versus Brendan Allen at 1.29 times. This is Dorcas's UFC debut. He's 5-0 in his last 5. And Brendan Allen's 2-0 in the UFC, and he's 5-0 in his last 5. Starting with Dorcas, he's obviously a really dangerous BJJ practitioner. He's 9-0 as a professional, 8 wins via submission. And when I was looking through tape for a submission guy, his striking's not as basic as I thought it may be. He has the high kick, he popped the straight left out from southpaw, and his jab's kind of sneaky long. Obviously he's most comfortable on the ground. He has some good trips to get it there. He likes to body lock and throw his opponents, and once it's there, he's super slick. He's got nice guard passes, really tight squeeze, guys tapping out almost immediately as soon as he's sunk it in. And yeah, so I feel like if it hits the deck, although Allen's capable, I think Dorcas will have a bit of an advantage in terms of the jiu-jitsu. But the bigger factor, I think, is Allen's going to definitely have the striking advantage. He's so much more powerful. He's really filled out at middleweight. Dorcas is long, but Allen's definitely thicker. He's more versatile with his strikes. He throws the elbows, the knees. He's faster. He's more fluent. Fluent with kicks and transitions through all sorts of positions, switches up the stances when he kind of goes forward and attacks. And then I also think that Allen has the wrestling advantage. I know I mentioned that Dorcas will probably have the BJJ advantage, but if he's not controlling the position and Allen's using his wrestling edge and being the much stronger guy in the clinch, I feel like if it does hit the deck, Allen's going to be safer if he's controlling the position, if you know what I'm saying. And in terms of that wrestling edge, I feel like, on the other hand, Kyle's going to struggle to take him down, especially if Allen's pushing forward and Kyle's backing up. And that's what I think is going to happen. I think Allen's going to take the center. He's going to control the pace. Dorcas doesn't have the front kicks or a fast enough jab to keep Allen away. And, Allen can do that all day. Allen's got a great gas tank. He's been slotted to fight 25 minutes 5 times. He's got great experience in LFA. He headlined 5 cards. He was the champion there. And, he's just versed the better competition as well. He's 14-3, but his 3 losses are to Trevin Giles, Eric Anders, and Anthony Hernandez. And, Dorcas does have a 9-0 record as a pro, but if you look deeper, he was a 5-5 amateur, and all 5 of his losses were finishes. He's obviously made corrections since then, but that was only in 2016, and I don't like to see that. 5 losses, 5 finishes. It shows me vulnerability. So, to my pick, I can see some interesting grappling exchanges, but I sense that Dorcas might get involved in too many stand-up kind of transitions or battles, and I'm going to go with the more powerful guy. I can see Alan cracking him with a big shot, and whether he goes up straight away or Alan follows up with some pretty nasty ground and pound, I'm going to take Brennan by KO at 11.45 times. I'll also be playing that in the first round. These guys both do start fast, and I think Kyle will be stiffer early, with this being his debut. And although I would like to see these guys scrap it out for longer for entertainment purposes, I feel like it's going to come early. 8 of Alan's 13 finishes have been in round 1, including all 5 of his knockouts. And obviously I can't take any lost data from Dorcas as he's undefeated as a pro, but 3 of his 5 amateur losses were also in that first round, so I feel like there's a bit of data to support that at least. To the co-main, we've got Mike Perry versus Mickey Gall. Perry's 1.72 times versus Gall 2.39 times, so pretty close on the odds here. Perry's 6-6 in the UFC, 2-3 in his last 5. Mickey Gall's 5-2 in the UFC, and 3-2 in his last 5. I won't take too long on this pick. Perry's odds are far too high. I'll be taking him for sure. And yeah, yes, Gall has a better UFC record on paper, but his wins are over way lower, a lower level of opponent, and whenever he's taken a small step up, he's always been beaten. Those 2 UFC losses were against Randy Brown and Diego Sanchez. When you look at Perry's losses, 4 of his 6 UFC losses have been to absolute studs at welterweight. Talking Ponzinibbio, Donald Cerrone, Vicente Luque, and Jeff Neal. And then when he has gone on to versus a higher level of opponent, he has managed to win some of those fights, like Charles Oliveira and Paul Felder, and Gall just hasn't shown me that, hasn't done that. Perry's a much more powerful striker, although slightly wild. He's still got better technique than Gall. He's got super heavy leg kicks, which Gall doesn't react to well at all. That'll be a good technique to slow down his movement, because Gall has made some improvements in his striking. His movement's a bit better, and his strikes look a little bit faster. He's working with Joe Schilling, which is very good to see. Good to see him rounding out his game, but he's still kind of a defensive liability. He keeps his chin up when entering, especially when throwing that right straight, and Perry is definitely a wise enough fighter to counter that. Gall also doesn't get his head off the center line, which is going to leave him open to Perry's big right overhand behind that jab. And yeah, I see him going out. Both guys love to start fast, like our previous fight, but Perry is far better conditioned and more durable. He went 3 rounds with Luque with that bastard nose. I know that nose only happened in the 3rd round, but he still survived that onslaught in the final minutes of the 3rd. And Gall's improving his striking, but I don't expect it to bother Perry at all. Perry's a very tough guy. So yeah, I'm going Perry by knockout. I think Gall might have a moment or 2 in the first, and he's obviously the better grappler, but I think Perry's power, implementation of leg kicks, and some bit of body work there will see Mickey go down as he starts to fatigue in the 2nd round. The odds are currently 2.18 times, but I can't see it any other way. Yeah, Mike Perry knockout 2nd round. Okay, to the main event, Dustin Poirier versus Dan Hooker. Poirier's 1.32 times, and Dan Hooker's 4.08. Poirier's 17-5, 1 no contest in the UFC, 4-1 in his last 5. Hooker's 10-4 in the UFC and 4-1 in his last 5. Starting with Hooker, definition of an 8-limb fighter. He can throw every attack in the book and has recorded finish with kicks, knees, punches and elbows. He's one of only a few UFC fighters to have done that. Super fluent on the feet, he's defensively sound, and I'm going to say that overall I believe he's more technical with the versatility of strikes than Poirier, and definitely has the wider arsenal of strikes. He also makes some really good reads and has awesome timing. You just got to go back and look at that Ross Pearson knockout with the knee, timing Ross's entry and blitz like that. He obviously reads the game quite well. Training at City Kickboxing with Adesanya would definitely assist him with that. And he also has the BJJ game. He's got 7 subs. You just don't see it utilised in his game so much because he doesn't go for takedowns, doesn't threaten the takedown too frequently at all. Another big factor is Dan Hooker used to fight at featherweight, and since moving to lightweight in 2017, he's 7-1. So, and that only loss being to Edson Barboza. So he's first some good competition at 155. Going to Poirier, he's got the heavier hands, his footwork's really good, his boxing's really nice from that southpaw stance, and he loves just to walk his opponent down. One thing I have noticed and seen through the stats, he does headhunt a lot, and I'd love to see him work a more variety of strikes, or a more variety of strikes in this one, especially the leg kicks. He should use the leg kick to chop down. He's a longer fighter, and you've just got to watch tape on that Barboza fight, his one loss at 55, to see how successful they were. You know, he really chewed Dan up with them leg kicks. Also, when Poirier, incorporates the clinch and wrestling game, that's when he looks his best. He controls guys on the mat really well, and he also has dangerous BJJ with 7 wins via submission. And he's definitely just the better rounded fighter if you talk about the wrestling and everything going on. The thing I'm worried about the most is Hooker, being able to walk him onto something with his ability to throw a wide array of strikes, and then also the potential that he chews Dustin up with leg kick. So yeah, both guys have amazing output, but in terms of durability and championship round conditioning, I'd have to go Poirier. I did score Hooker his last fight against Feld. I know lots of people didn't, but I gave Paul the last 2 rounds, and I felt like Dan was fading, and that's not going to play well here. So to my prediction, I'm going with Poirier. Dan's a formidable striker, but Dustin took all that punishment from Gaethje, stayed standing the whole time, and I think he can take Dan's shots. I'm hoping to see Poirier mix it up a bit on the feet, more so than he has done in the past, and do just enough, increasing his usage of leg kicks, and pressure down towards the cage, be relentless with takedowns. However, I also think Hooker is a super durable guy. He's only been finished via strikes by Barboza in a manner that I don't think Poirier can replicate, even if he does go down more the kicking route and kicking his legs out. So I'm going to pick Dustin via decision at 4.32 times, which is quite good odds at the moment. Okay, so wrapping it up with the multi per annum, we are taking a leg out. We're only going with 3 legs here. We're going to take Maurice Greene by points, Mike Perry to win, and then Dustin Poirier to win on points as well at $36.79. That's paying. I know it's a little bit less than the $40 limit that I try to cut off at, but I just didn't want to throw in another leg for the sake of it. And I'm relatively confident with those legs. Maurice Greene by decision is probably the leg I'm least confident in. I can definitely see a finish in that fight, probably for Maurice anyway. But yeah, both those guys, not the greatest conditioning, so if it goes to points, it could be a close one. And then I also wanted to take this time quickly something I might do in the future is look through the undercard. Obviously with the multi per annum, I'm going to try and keep it to fights from the main card, as they're fights I've looked into with a little bit more depth and have a little bit more understanding of it. But I would like to, every card, have a little look through the undercard odds and to see if there's anything I can withdraw of value. And if I'm going to pick one person from the undercard in this event, I'm going to go with Karma Worthy. He's paying $3.30 at the moment against Luis Pena. Luis Pena, obviously the better fighter, highly touted prospect at one point, can still probably climb his way back to being one of the guys. He's got a really troublesome frame. He's super long, 6'3" at 155 is ridiculous. And he's got a well-rounded game. He's got good BJJ, crisp kickboxing really, but I just think those odds are too much for Cumworthy. In his UFC debut, he surprised me so much, knocking out Devontae Smith with a lead left hook, and that's one of his best weapons, that lead left hook. His hands are so heavy, he doesn't throw it typically or fast at all really, and he is defensively not great on the feet. He doesn't really move his head and he doesn't move his feet, but he's definitely got knockout power. And then on the ground, he's not used to either. He likes to get to the butterfly guard, be offensive off his back, and then also he has the knowledge to get butterfly guard, push opponent off of him, and try and get back to his feet, where he's obviously most dangerous because he's got big power. So I feel like Cumworthy could get it done there at $3.30. I think those odds are just too high, and I'll be having a little single play on that. But yeah, that's all from me. For those that stayed around this long, thanks for listening again. We've got a little bit of a break, 2 weeks until the first Fight Island card, so I'll try and get that out at some point over the next week or two. I'll probably get it out a little bit early, see what we can do. But yeah, as always, appreciate you guys listening in. If you want to follow me on Verdict, it's at ItsTadpole. to keep up with how I'm fighting or how I'm scoring the fights, or if there's any main card changes between now and Saturday night. And then also, if you want to duck across to Instagram, also at its__tadpole. There's just a little bit of content there, verdict related, betting related, and you can see when all my stuff's coming out. It's just a little outlet for me. And alright, cheers. Yeah.